In a village that sat beside a wide and restless river, the houses were used to getting soaked. For months every year, the water would rise up, swallow the roads, and leave hundreds of families stranded. And even worse, the school was on the opposite side of the river, forcing the children to trudge through the pouring rain to get there. At first, the villagers had tried to fix it. They built long, sturdy bridges, only for the river to overflow and wash them away. So instead of fighting the water, they learned to work with it. And now, when the rains came, the children would take their books, wrap them in plastic bags, and walk to school. But among them was a 14-year-old girl named Mira, who walked with her head held high, while all the other children trudged along in defeat. And that was because Mira had an eye for unused things, and a heart full of compassion. Every time it rained, she noticed people throwing away their broken umbrellas on the street corners. But while others saw trash, Mira saw potential. The moment those discarded umbrellas caught her eye, she would grab them, run home, and start stitching the torn fabric by hand. Mira wasn't sure how she learned how to sew. She just knew that whenever her dolls got a rip or a tear, she had an almost supernatural urge to fix them. Now, though, her mission was much bigger. She wanted to help the kids in her village get to school without getting soaked. And she believed these discarded umbrellas could be the answer. Using old sewing needles she found in a box of trinkets, Mira painstakingly mended the ripped fabric until she created beautiful waterproof bags. Then she stuffed them with dry leaves to make sure they were as waterproof as possible. At first she made 2 bags, one for her best friend Lada, and the other for an annoying yet endearing boy named Raju, who always teased her for being different. But once they realized how useful the bags were, word spread across the town like wildfire. Before long, Mira was making dozens of bags, each one more colorful than the last. The kids loved them so much that whenever they entered the school building, they would empty out their bags, dump the leaves, and use them as colorful, sturdy umbrellas to play with during recess. Over time, the bags became so popular that soon over 20 children were walking to school with them, each one carrying not just books, but a story of kindness. This would have been a happy ending if this were any other story. But this is the story of Mira, which means that things were just getting started. You see, Mira lived in a world where adults were quick to judge things that they didn't understand. When Mira's mother saw her spending all her time creating bags out of trash, she got really upset. "What are you doing? You're wasting your time and ruining your hands," she yelled at her daughter. "A girl your age should be thinking about getting married, not making toys out of garbage." But Mira just replied, "I'm not wasting my time. These bags will help the kids stay dry and reach school safely." That did not make her mother happy. She sent Mira to the market to buy some cucumbers and warned her to stay out of trouble. When Mira arrived at the market, she decided to go to the square where the children gathered after school. As she rounded the corner, she heard some loud voices. There were a bunch of children standing around a puddle, arguing over who owned a certain bag. And when Mira stepped closer, she realized that they were fighting over the bags that she had made. Mira was shocked. Was that what her creation had become? A status symbol? Overhearing their argument, an old woman with kind eyes and a warm smile asked, "What's all this commotion about?" When the children told her about the bags, the woman said, "That's very thoughtful of you, Mira. It must feel good to help your friends." "It does," Mira replied quietly. "But I think I made a mistake. I didn't realize that they'd become so popular. Now everyone wants one, and I don't have enough material to make them all." The old woman smiled knowingly. "Well, I believe there's a solution to every problem. Why don't you come visit me tomorrow morning? I'll show you something." Intrigued, Mira agreed. The next day, Mira went to the old woman's house and discovered that she was a retired tailor. After greeting her warmly, the old woman took Mira to her attic. "This is why you should never throw away old clothes," the woman said, pointing to piles of colorful fabrics. Then, with a twinkle in her eye, she added, "I know how passionate you are about helping your friends. How about we make some bags together?" Overjoyed, Mira helped sort through the fabrics, choosing the brightest and sturdiest ones. The old woman showed her how to cut the cloth, sew the seams, and add finishing touches. Together, they made 6 new bags, each as unique and special as the last. Then, the old woman handed a bag to Mira and said, "This one's for you. I think you deserve it." Touched by the gesture, Mira thanked her and headed back home. From that day on, Mira and the old woman spent their days making bags, sharing stories and passing down sewing skills. And as the rainy season approached, Mira distributed the bags to the children, who were delighted with their new designs. But one day, a group of teenagers from a nearby town arrived in their flashy cars. They had heard about Mira's bags and wanted to check them out. When they saw the colorful bags made of recycled materials, they burst into laughter. "What kind of joke is this? Do you actually think you're helping people with these silly bags?" one of them scoffed. "Here, take this," another said, handing Mira a shiny new backpack. "We'll give you real help." Mira felt her face burning with shame. Maybe these kids were right. Maybe her bags weren't enough. But then, she looked at their pristine backpacks and realized that they were already falling apart. The fabric was thin, the zippers were flimsy, and the straps were too narrow. Determined to prove them wrong, Mira said, "You may think these are silly bags, but they can last longer than your fancy backpacks." To make her point, she pulled her bag over her shoulder and walked away. The teenagers exchanged surprised glances. They had never seen anyone act so confidently in the face of their mockery. Driven by curiosity and a touch of competitiveness, they followed Mira. Meanwhile, Mira led them on a merry chase, dodging through crowded markets and down narrow alleys. Finally, they reached a clearing where a group of children were waiting for her. When they saw the teenagers approaching, they hid behind Mira, pulling on her dress and whispering, "Help us." Frowning, the teenagers asked, "What are you doing here?" Mira turned around and with a mischievous grin said, "I'm giving these children bags so they can protect their books and go to school in the rain." As the teenagers listened to Mira's words, a strange feeling washed over them. They couldn't believe that someone could be so selfless and kind. Shame crept up on them, making their faces burn. One of the teenagers, who was known for his cruel jokes, stammered, I didn't know." Another, who was usually full of bravado, hung his head in shame. Mira, with her usual kindness, stepped forward and said, "It's okay. Why don't you help us make some bags? We can use all the help we can get." Touched by Mira's generosity, the teenagers eagerly agreed. Together, they spent the afternoon cutting, sewing, and decorating bags. By the end of the day, they had made so many bags that they could give one to every child in the village. As the sun set, the villagers gathered together, not just the children, but also the adults. Mira stood in front of them, and with a gentle smile, explained how important it was to help each other and care for their community. Her words echoed in the twilight, reminding everyone that even the smallest act of kindness could make a big difference. From that day on, the teenagers became part of the village. They organized cleanup drives, helped repair houses, and most importantly, continued making bags, ensuring that no child had to walk to school without protection from the rain. And Mira, with her big heart and even bigger dreams, kept inspiring them all. As the years passed, Mira grew up. But her spirit of kindness and innovation never faded. The village flourished, not just because of the bags, but because of the values they represented: compassion, empathy, and the courage to be different. And whenever the rains came, which they always did, the children of the village would jump for joy, knowing that their colorful bags would keep them safe and dry on their way to school.